All right, so on Friday we got another a jobs report and an unemployment update, and I still don't understand how, as the government, you go and you look at yourself in the mirror and you tell yourself that unemployment is 4.1% when nearly everyone you know is underemployed or working part time. Being underemployed should automatically make you listed as unemployed. 100%. There's no reason why someone who is underemployed should be considered in employment status. No one who's part time that doesn't want to be part time should be included in that. And you have to include all the people that have given up looking for work. In my opinion, unemployment is close to 75, 80%, probably even higher than that if you only count people who are actually making a living. Everyone else who isn't making a living or who's in survival mode doesn't count as employed, in my opinion. That's just poor statistics on the part of the government trying to inflate their numbers before an election. 4.1% is a number that has absolutely no bearing in reality and never will. And blaming the low numbers on job creation because of strikes and the weather. Come on, government. How stupid do you think the proletariat really is? But apparently, they must really think that because they want you to believe those numbers when most people have given up on finding an actual job. I just got back from the Kroger's and I looking around inside there, looking at the customers, looking at the employees. No one there is making it. Just look at what people are buying. Just look at people in general. This morning, while I was walking out of the gym, there was a girl on the leg press machine, and she just looked at me like with eyes of despair. That's all I can say is like we're out here as the proletariat. We're not making it, but we're trying to normalize not making it because if you really stop and think about how underemployed you are, or you think about all the people you know currently who are unemployed or whose significant other has lost their job in recent months due to layoffs or just downsizing. My company's thrown away hundreds of people in the last month. Hundreds of them, people who used to believe that they had stability, are now part of the unemployment. There's no way you're going to tell me that there's 4.1% unemployment with the amount of layoffs that have happened, the amount of people just losing their jobs, downsizing uh, jobs that used to pay a lot of money, chopping them up into little blocks of jobs that are part time with no benefits. These aren't jobs. And forcing this reality on people and telling them that it's doing great, it is absolutely something. It's the gaslighting of America. So today I asked the Chat GPT about what it thought about these numbers, and this is what its introductory paragraph was, or not paragraph, but what it said first before it generated the script. So I heard in the news today that the unemployment rate is still at 4.1%. You know, they say that like it's supposed to be some good news. That's what ChatGPT had to say about putting that the economic data into it and then running it. So, without further delay, let's get into today's three talking points. Our first one's kind of long just because it's so good. While the unemployment rate remains steady at 4.1%, the numbers don't fully reflect the struggle many face finding quality jobs. Many job openings are low wage, part time positions that don't provide a sustainable living wage, leaving many employed but still struggling to make ends meet. And this is something that the Internet Complaint Department left on one of my recent videos, that you shouldn't be allowed to run a business if you need to run the business with minimum wage workers. A company that solely benefits the owners and the investors isn't a real company. If you're going to force the government to pay for food stamps, health care, and housing, Section 8 housing for all your workers, how are you allowed to do that? How are you allowed to enslave the American public in places like Walmart, knowing full well that you're the world's largest retail and your wages are absolutely the worst of any company in America. Minimum wage jobs should not be allowed to exist while there are corporate profits that exceed $100 billion a year. Because you getting to use slave labor while everyone has to pay for their food stamps isn't a real company. Not paying people real wages, living wages, which start at $150,000 a year, Walmart and Kroger's, paying people $20,000 a year and then automatically forcing them to apply for food stamps, because that's what happened to me when I started working at Walmart. The day I started and I was part-time minimum wage, they're like, "You qualify for food stamps now." And I was like, "Oh my god, you really are going to tell me this after hiring me, that you qualify for food stamps, as if it's some sort of benefit and not a detriment to my entire existence working for you?" And you're not really working. You're a slave at that point. And that's what this jobs report says to me. We've got 12,000 more open positions on the plantation. Who's desperate enough? And that's what America comes down to. Every morning that you wake up, America opens up for business to see who's desperate enough to work these millions of jobs that no one wants. And for the reality is that none of us want these jobs. I don't want my current job. I've never wanted any job that I've had in my entire life. And I know that there are tens of millions or 100 million of the proletariat out there saying the same thing. I don't want the job that I have, but I'm desperate enough so that I will go to that job, smile, and pretend that I'm okay. But we're not okay. Those people that I just saw out there at the bus stop who are just suffering out there, because it's a very, very cold night in Arizona. Remember, in Arizona, there's a switch. It's either brutally hot or brutally cold. And right now, it is brutally cold in my apartment. And because I live in a hellhole, you don't have access. This place has centralized heating and cooling until the owners decide whether or not they're going to turn on the heat. You got to figure it out. And that's the job market. Until the corporations start paying living wages, the rest of the proletariat has to figure it out. And the only way to figure it out is by finding alternative sources of making money. Your 40-hour work week is never going to provide you sufficient funds for you to live a comfortable life. You are going to end up like me with that can of dog food every day. And I keep mentioning dog food because food tastes like absolute crap these days. No matter what you buy, food doesn't taste good anymore. And that includes fast food, that includes even restaurant food. Higher tier food doesn't taste good to me. I will never eat at another PF Chang's as long as I live. Why? Because it's disgusting compared to what the quality of food used to be. And if food is the measure by which we base our overall quality of life, our housing isn't much better. Our transportation isn't better. Our overall feeling about how our life is going is in the toilet. I don't care about what these economists come out and say, what the mainstream media says about the booming economy for rich people. Overall, I would give life an F right now. An F in the middle finger. Because everything about being alive right now sucks. And it has sucked for a long time. And people just look around and they pretend, well, if I'm not the only one, then this is normal. It's not normal. Stop trying to convince yourself that your low quality food and housing and overall state in life is normal. They've normalized it so that people don't rise up against them and say, you know what, we want better. We want better jobs. We want better food. We want better everything. Everything about life needs to improve at this very second. Benefits should be automatic. Every person in America should have health care. Every person in America needs universal basic income. And everyone needs a safe place to live, regardless of your income. Housing is a basic human right. You can't take away that basic human right from hundreds of thousands of people and say they're not trying hard enough, because that's the excuse that they use for everything. You're just not working hard enough. You're bad with money. You don't know how to get a job. And overall, just blaming poor people for being poor. If you're not a rich, successful person with a booming investment portfolio, you did something wrong and you should go look in the mirror and point at yourself and call yourself a loser because that's what you are. In the eyes of corporate America, every person that can't start their own business is a loser. If you have to work for the minimum wage, you're a loser. If you're taking that job out of sheer desperation that you hate, you're a loser. Everything about the 99% points at personal failure. And I'm here to tell you that's just not true. Normalizing personal failure and demonizing poor people for existing isn't what you're supposed to do. If anything, we should point at the people that have too much and demonize them for taking all of the resources in society and then telling you to blame yourself because you don't have your own business and you don't have a lot of money. When the default position for the average person is failure, then what does that say about our society? As a society, we failed. We failed in every capacity, every metric of being a positive society we have failed at. Why are there so few places where you can afford to actually live? And the places that are left, the places that you can afford, you don't want to live in, and the places that you want to live in, you can't afford to live in. That to me points at a metric just in basic human housing, at the overall failure of a government, of rich people, and normal people to just tell themselves, well, things will get better. Things are not designed to get better for poor people. They never have, and they never will. In fact, the more we normalize personal failure, the more they're going to use that against you to tell you that you suck. I'm here to tell you that you suck, poor people. I'm here to tell myself that I suck for being a poor person. But that's just what it is. There's nothing that we can do. Poor people don't even have bootstraps. So telling someone that doesn't even have the ability to pull themselves up and buy a home is, I don't even know what to call it. There's a certain word I want to use right now, but it's not politically correct. But telling people to do things that they have no way of doing is not the answer. There are no solutions for how horrifying our society is. I can walk outside and go in any direction, and there's going to be someone passed out at a bus bench or begging for money on the corner. That's the society we've become, a society of have nots. And what are we supposed to do? It's not like we can just decide to to release the empathy virus so that someone notices that the proletariat is suffering second by second because they can't access anything. The opportunity to access anything positive has been taken away and has been for decades. Again, coming back to this idea that we have to normalize personal failure. And that really bothers me. All right, talking point number two. Although job numbers are stable, these temporary or low growth opportunities may not offer long term stability or advancement. Temporary or low growth opportunities. That's what you call your average job in America. Temporary and low growth opportunity. Last year, when this person that I knew lost her job working at the bank and had to scramble for something to do for 6 months, she searched every single day for a job and couldn't find one. And it was exactly a year ago that she found this job working in sales at a company that was going under, a company that had no chance for growth, and the job was very unstable and very temporary. And I told this person, this is not a real job. Don't get used to this job. Find yourself another job. And she said, Millennial Stim, it took me 6 months to find this crap sales job that doesn't pay anything. And I told her, you can't get comfortable there. And you know what she did? She got comfortable at a temporary, low growth job. And guess what happened to her? She got fired. Just like that. Those jobs aren't designed to retain people. The 99% of jobs right now aren't designed to retain you in any conceivable way. They are temporary jobs by their very nature. When a job doesn't pay you sufficient to have housing and food simultaneously, you know that is a temporary, low opportunity position, and it lacks any stability. All jobs right now in America for the lower part of our society have no advancement at all. Their advancement's not even built into them. It's not even, well, we need to create a clear path for people to move up in the company. No, they want you to work there for a few months and then leave. That's what these jobs are. They don't want people to believe that things are going to get better at that job. And they don't even try to lie to you about it anymore. Retirement plans and pensions disappeared years ago, replaced by phony 401k plans that I don't even know why people invest in their 401k. I've never put a dime in a 401k, and that's usually because you're living hand to mouth. Poor people don't have savings. Poor people don't have plans for retirement. Poor people are just alive. They're just alive. They're not exactly participating in life. They live to work, and that's all they do all day long is they go to a place that hands them a couple bucks, some fish heads, and this is it. And we're expected again normalizing complete and total career failure because there aren't careers anymore. There are just jobs. And corporations created this environment where there are just jobs because workers can get very expensive when they want things like a living wage. The minimum wage has been normalized for nearly every entry level job in America. And the way that they keep the bars locked on anything better is by telling people that you need 5 to 10 years of experience in an education that you can't get with a low opportunity position within society. You normalize failure. And you just look at people who think that way and you're like, are you kidding me? They're like, no, money's only for a certain type of person in our society, and it's not for you, and it's not for me. I know that I will never amount to anything as long as I'm alive. There's nothing for me to grab onto. There's only falling further and further down in society until you finally on the street because I think that corporations don't care if there are millions of homeless people because that's how they act. They want to turn every person into a homeless person by offering basically nothing to work for them and then laughing at you and pointing at you and calling you stupid when you fail when they've created the scenario in which you failed it. And it's not like uh, it can't be improved. We need to do better as a society to stop these evil corporations from practicing things like this because they know what it costs to be alive. They know what it feels like to be able to not be financially crunched every moment of the day. They know what they need to pay, and they're acting as if they don't. Like, you should somehow figure out how you're going to survive and do well on $300 a week in your part time minimum wage job. It's not possible. If someone's not helping you and you're a part time minimum wage person, you're going to go down into the gutter. And it may be you laying face first in the street with no one who cares about you. Cars driving past you and just looking at you like, oh, look, there's another poor sap working in a Kroger's for practically nothing. We should just probably keep walking before the smell gets too close to us. Talking point number 3: cut interest rates. This could signal to companies that now is a risky time to hire, possibly creating even further job opportunities. This morning, when I went to Kroger's after working out, I walked in the store to buy my eggs and what else? Eggs and sausage. And I asked the girl, where's everyone? Why are there 2 people here in the front? And she said, 5 people called out. And these aren't 5 young people. These are 5 much older people that are just fed up with working there. When you walk into any retail establishment or let's say any low tier job and you look around at how many people are there and you're like, this is enough people to run this place. And the employees that are still there will tell you we know that. but they're the ones that are required to pick up the slack for all the people who didn't show up that day. That's how I feel at my current job. There should be 5 to 10 people, extra people working in this company, just in this area. Where are they? Well, there's no money for them in the budget. Well, if there's no money in the budget for workers, why is there always millions of dollars for executive salaries? And that's where I'm going to leave today's video, because I didn't start out making the video in a bad mood, but I definitely ended the video in a very negative mood.